Welcome to episode 2 of the Foulborn Uniques for 3.27 Keepers League. And now we look at the list of unique belts. We have 16 different belts, and some of them are drop restricted, and some of them can be found anywhere. And now we're taking a look at different belts that have downsides that we could maybe remove with a Foulborn modifier, therefore make it an insanely good item, or a better item, or a build enabling item. The first one is Faminebind. It has 30% reduced flask charges gained, which is the worst mod, I think. And if we can use the Foulborn there, it could be a better item. And if you look at the item acquisition, Faminebind can drop anywhere. It can be chanced. The next one is Umbilicus Immortalis. It has the mod Flasks do not apply to you. And flask use apply to your raised zombies and specters. If you can remove the flasks do not apply to you, then you have double the effect, where your minions get the flask effect, or the zombies and specters, and you yourself, which could be an insanely good item because this looks a bit like a Wander and Spectre League. Some of the pure physical builds use Ryslatha Coil for the attack-based builds, and they want to scale the more maximum physical attack damage as high as possible, and have a low as possible, less minimum physical damage multiplier. And if you can remove the 30% for the less minimum, it could be huge, because then the roll range is way higher if that mod is removed. For the Sunblast belt, I'm not too certain. The skills throw 2 additional traps, it's good. Traps from skills are thrown randomly around the target location. Maybe that's a downside. And traps cannot be triggered by enemies, which just means you want to have a lower duration, so the traps trigger by themselves. And therefore you have to reduce the trap duration. But maybe you want to trigger it by the enemy, and then these 2 lines and this line could be potential ideal outcomes to be removed by the Foulborn. Mageblood, really nice unique, just kidding, it's overpowered. A magic utility flask cannot be used, so if you use a Mageblood with 4 modifiers, the leftmost 4 magic utility flasks can be used, then you can't use a 5th other one. And if you remove this line with the Foulborn, in extremely rare outcomes, then maybe you can use a 5th utility flask, and you don't have to use a unique flask, but usually you have 1 or 2 unique flasks that are really nice and that you want to use even with your Mageblood setup. Then for Maligaro's Restraint, maybe you want to get rid of the 100% increased shock duration on you, or the shocks you cause are reflected back to you, but that's usually the case that the people that use this belt want especially this effect that they reflect it back to themselves. Then the Retch, it has no restriction where it can drop. I wasn't sure for now, for a second there. It has 30% reduced flask charges gained during any flask effect, which hinders your flask uptime. And if you remove that, it becomes slightly better, but I don't think it's that great of a belt. And one of the best items for Foulborn transformation is Soulthirst, because it has gain Soul Eater during any flask effect. It has the huge downside that you lose all eaten souls when you use a flask, and if you can grab a Soulthirst with this line removed, then this could replace the Soul Eater attack from Calling Whisper, where you reduce the curse effect duration, get your maximum Soul Eaters very quickly, but it got nerfed and now it requires more investment. But the investment was just the ring, then a 4-link usually, and maybe some passives, but now you need the passives absolutely for curse and hit items, or the setup for gems, and the ring. And if you have a Soulthirst with this line removed, then you just need a belt, and then you have Soul Eaters as long as you kill enemies. Then Gluttony, it has take physical damage when you use a movement skill. That's not too bad of a downside, it just is annoying. You have no armor or maximum energy shield, which is a huge downside, and you only have evasion basically, or ward as a defense layer. And if you have removed the no armor or energy shield, it could be a really nice belt, especially for hit based with attacks. Then you gain a lot of life gain on hit and mana on hit, as well as Culling Strike against cursed enemies. Druggery has 10 to 20% increased flask charges used. Some party players, like Snap OW, is party playing with the Druggery, and they have one person that just drinks Life Flask and converts it to your team's regeneration. If you have the 20% reduced flask charges used, then maybe that's helpful for your party, but if you are purely spec'd into flasks, then it probably shouldn't have a problem with it. But maybe it's a min-max thing. Then Bound by Fate. It can be found anywhere. And maybe, I'm not sure if you remove this line, that it removes all of them. Or if you want to remove one of them, all of them get removed. I think this is just one mod. But potentially it could be you remove hits against you always critical strikes. Or you can remove the attacks against you always hit. Or damage with hits against you is lucky. Half of the mods are really beneficial and half of them are detrimental, so a debuff. And if you could remove like the debuffs, it could be a better belt that has just 3 upsides and that cycles every 5 seconds. Or maybe the upside only appears if you have like a Foulborn mod that you gain 10 rarity. I have no idea what the mods will be, but let's say you have during the 5 seconds, for 5 seconds, you gain 10 rarity. If that's a mod, or it doesn't cycle, so you remove like 2 of the 3 bad mods if you have multiple Foulborn mods, and those never show up, and you have just the 3 uptimes, 3 benefits. If you have the proc of this one. Both Foulborn Uniques have 20% chance for multiple Foulborn modifiers, where you move all of the downsides, and then you have just every 5 seconds you gain either you always critical strike, attacks cannot hit you, or you damage with it, it's lucky. Would be really nice. I'm definitely live searching that one with Foulborn mods. Then Leash and Flesh, you can have an offering of each type, but with 50% reduced duration, and if you can remove this, then they have double the duration basically. Then Immortal Flesh, it has minus to all elemental resistances, and if you remove that, you save like 45 total resistance on your year, and you get a lot of life and regeneration. And another potential insane interaction would be with Dyadian Dawn. It's like a tier 3 unique and rather common, and you have, if you catalyst it, you gain 7% additional faster damage with your attack skills and ignites. So you have up to 42% faster ignite damage, but you have the downside of deal no physical damage. And you need to convert all of your damage to fire basically, so you have bigger ignites. But if you remove the deal no physical damage, then your flat physical damage can also ignite easier. And would be a really good unique, especially if you play Scissorhands Explosive Arrow build. Then Nevalius Inheritance is another insane belt if it can be Foulborn correctly. It can be found anywhere and it has no restriction. And it has, like this mod, Flask applied to you have 60% reduced effect, which is really bad. And 2% reduced Flask effect duration per level. So at 100 levels, or if you look there, you have 200% reduced Flask effect duration from this mod. And Flasks applied to you have 100% increased effect, but you have the 60% downside. So if you are lucky and remove either one of these 2 modifiers with the Foulborn, then you could have an insane belt, which most people would not notice. The Flask duration is okay. If you look like a level 100, 50% reduced duration and 40% increased effect. But if you remove the 60% effect on your Flasks, then you have like 100% increased effect, and then you have like 25% from the Alchemist mod, and then up to 70% from the Bubblegum, what is it called, from the Enkindling Orb. You get up to 70%, so again up to 95% from the Flask enchant with the Enkindling Orb, 25% with the Alchemist mod, plus the 70 is 95, and with the 60% mod removed, you have 195% increased effect of your Flask. So the Flask has almost a 200% multiplier, so the Flask effect is times 3. So if you have 5% maximum resistance, you get 15% maximum resistance if this modifier is removed and you have the Enkindling Orbs on them. But usually you don't want to use the Enkindling Orbs without the Mageblood. So usually you take the other orb, so you, when the fast charges reach full, you reuse the Flask. And that was episode 2 of the Foulborn Unique series. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye!